What is up as a figure hunter? Today we're going to do the full and final review for the Suunto Run watch. This feature-rich, low-price $250 watch. Final review for that. They just announced that the Race 2 has been released. I have one on order, so I'll be doing reviews for that, and I'm sort of catching up with Suunto because in all honesty, when I look at the competitors on the market and the providers of sports training watches, Coros, Polar, Garmin, Suunto is really stepping up their game, adding some really high quality designs, high quality build with some quality features at a really affordable price. So we're gonna do the full review for the Run right now. The Race 2 is incoming. And if you are new to this channel, I test and track devices primarily for higher intensity interval training or CrossFit or more dynamic lifting, looking at devices for their tracking of the training load as well as the wellness and recovery metrics, and really just to give an alternative to all the reviews that are focused just on running or biking or swimming, things like that. So that's what we're gonna dive into with the Run. With the review now, we're just gonna specifically talk about the things that I liked about it, the things that I didn't like about it, how it really compares to its competitors, and we'll look sort of side by side with some of its competitors along the way as we look at it, and then what I think in general about what it offers. So what do I like? What do I think are the pros of the Suunto Run? If we look at it on hand, I think the price at $250 for this kind of a AMOLED 1.3-inch screen, good build quality. I feel like the price is solid with the feature set, and you can't find it in other places. I think that they do a great job with quality all around. Even if I just think like the box they ship it in, they're not insulting the $250 buyer. That's still a lot of money, and they do a high quality production with that. The design itself is high quality, as well as any of the features that come with it. So the nylon band is actually a cool tilt to the nylon bands that are out there with the way they have the pin design, but you get two nylon bands with that box. That's awesome. You burn through one, even though they're different sizes, you can make the other one work. And then the rubber band, the little nib that ties it in place. I just like their attention to quality and to build. 1.3-inch screen, 22 millimeter quick release bands, good lightweight overall design, and everything works well. So it's like as you're looking at the operating system in previous Suunto watches, there was maybe glitches or delays, or everything functions the way you would want it to function, functions excellently, and it all comes in a battery life. My battery life, I've been testing with always on display at the highest, brightest setting. So this is the worst battery life you might experience in smartwatch mode. And I've been doing 45 minutes of GPS activity and about an hour to 2 hours of workout activity a day, tracking everything else. I'm getting 3.5 days. So 3.5 days with always on display at the brightest setting you could possibly have it is legit battery life. The fact that it comes with dual band GPS, you can connect the two satellites at the same time, and the fact that it's a multi-sport watch. So those are the things about the watch that I think are solid pros. Let's look at the features on the app that I think are legit pros for the $250 price point. Okay, looking at the app, there's a few basic things that I would focus on, and the most important to me, first and foremost, is the training tracking. They do something with their training which talks about your most recent load, or the rigor of the most recent workouts relative to how much rigor, how much load, the amount of rigor you've had over the course of a longer period of time. And your longer period of time is sort of defined as your fitness, and your shorter period of time is defined as what's either pushing you to greater fatigue, also pushing your fitness higher. But I like that you can track your fitness score, your fitness level over time, and you can see how your determination to have intense workouts flows through to actually direct numeric results. So that's one of the basic ways they track it. You can see your training load, and then they have some good feature sets within the coaching program. If you wanted to track your training and specificity, you could see your training level at each different day and look at it in a multiple of different facets. So the fact that they do a really good job at tracking your training in different avenues and ways. The second thing I feel like they do well, and it's pretty well, is the recovery aspects. It's not as fully featured as other watches, but let's look at what goes into the recovery. So you have your sleep, number one, which tracks your sleep at any time. The watch does a great job at tracking naps. It tracks naps better than my Whoop and better than my Garmin, which that thwarts me that it does better than those things. But it tracks your sleep. It doesn't give a whole lot of specifics, but it's always accurate when I went to bed, when I wake up. And then it tracks your HRV on a nightly basis, and it flows through into a simple chart. And we'll talk about maybe that, those two features could be a little bit more broad, but then it combines them all into a recovery score. And the recovery score is based on the quality of the sleep, how your HRV looks relative to longer term trends, and your training fatigue. So it's not going to have the daily resources, so don't look at this, because I've been using the Race more recently in my head-to-head comparison. That review is out now, the Race S versus the Run. But your recovery state combines all these features, and on the Run, it combines the HRV, your recent training stress and fatigue, your recent training rigor, as well as your sleep from last night to give you a recommendation. Now, I was getting in the 50s, and most times when my training was up, but it tracks that in recovery. So those are the features that I really like in the app and in the watch. So what are the things that are not great about the Suunto Run? The first and the bigger one we have to talk about is the heart rate tracking for intense workouts, for CrossFit, for wrist flex, for higher intensity, for interval training, for F45, for boot camp, any of those types of things you might use it for that uses kettlebell swings or pulling on a rower. The heart rate sensor, it's the same heart rate sensor that's on the Race S, so you're not missing anything there with one of their bigger brother watches. But if you look at just the specifics, I didn't track this because it's the same as the S, and I did a full review of that. But if you look at a monostructural workout, here's the results for the monostructural workout. And you can see that it doesn't quite get all the peaks, but it does okay on monostructural. But then if you look at a CrossFit workout, here's a workout for CrossFit. You can see that it really doesn't get it. This was a really, really, really hard workout that would have gotten me a huge stress score, and it doesn't keep up. And now this was a ton of wrist flex, so it was not fair. And if you wanted to look at the results in simple form for the Suunto Race S, here's the correlation chart to a chest strap. It just wasn't good. It was only a few workouts, because if it fails that badly, then I just tend to just say you have to use a chest strap or an external heart rate sensor. So that's my summary for the heart rate. It has been absolutely fine, and it easily compares with all the stats I'm getting for the daily use type stuff and the nighttime recovery stuff, but can't use it for intense workouts. So that's the biggest one on the watch itself, is the HR. The other thing is that the operating system is more simple on the Run versus the big brother family of race watches. It's just a little bit more easier now that I'm back to using the Race S and tracking that in preparation for the Race 2 arrival. I feel it is a little bit one-dimensional. It is a more simple operating system, but it all does work fine. One thing that you would note in this weird is that text messages aren't as legible on the Run versus the Race S, which is the same size screen, and they have some glitches where you don't see the name of who's sending you the text. And the screen on the Run is extra sensitive, so I just don't wear it in the shower. I don't wear it on the inside of my wrist, because it just reacts to everything a little bit more so than other touchscreen watches. So those are the things that are the cons. The biggest just being the heart rate sensor for higher intensity interval training is not to be trusted. You should use an external sensor. The rest are just sort of minor differences. So let's look at the app and what really I feel like are the more significant things that they need to work on as a company within the app. Okay, the primary thing that they need to work on as a company is they have all of these little widgets. They literally say this is your widget list. If you did an activity, the activity would then populate at the top. But for me, this doesn't help me process information. And if I'm looking at my training as primary importance in the feedback there, and the recovery is primary importance in the feedback there, especially during my nightly recovery, I don't want to see all these little tidbits of information, and it's not really very useful to absorbing information. They should have like a big section up at the top, which is your training, and it combines maybe bits of information from these little baby widgets into here's your training, here's primary aspects you can see of you're doing well, you're going ahead, you're not doing well, you need to pick up the pace. Secondly, on the recovery, again, another feature set, a big section on the app when you go there that says, here's your recovery, here are the primary components, here's what flows through. Not just a bunch of widgets that you can dive in and get little pieces of information. Like the recovery widget, it does give you a multiple of information that's sort of compiled into one recommendation, but I feel like they could do that bigger, bolder, better on the primary landing page of the app, and then let me dive into microscopic little pieces if I want to. So how they relay information in the training and in the recovery just needs to be bigger and clearer, not like little segmented widgets, because when I go to the thing, it doesn't help me absorb the information, and it's just not the way I think most people would want to absorb information, not well laid out. So other minor things, I don't like how it does the watch sync because it's always optimizing GPS. It takes longer to sync the watch than it does with any other watches. I do think the sleep tab and information with sleep analysis, as well as the HRV tab and information with HRV alone, is too one-dimensional. They could expand that. And then with the training, I do like how they've laid it out with the chronic training load, acute training load, and your form, but I feel like they could convert this into more normal words, normal communication in the training. So they could call it different things instead of things, because like your form is negative number, and that means you're pushing your fitness higher, but they could make it more intuitive. And so that's just a minor thing. So those are the things that I think about the watch and about the app, which I think are the real pros and the real cons. And then we go into, well, how does it compete versus others on the market today? So the first one it would compete with in the price point. So let's just start with what you could get for $250. And the answer is not a lot. So for $250, you can get the Garmin 165. The Garmin 165, it has, I think, a 1.2-inch screen, but either way, it's an AMOLED watch at least. But Garmin 165 actually lacks their advanced training analytics. So you don't get training load tracking. You don't get any of the advanced training analytics that you do get in this functional form here with the Run. It does have a better suite of wellness and recovery metrics on the 165, but I would pick the training analytics with the maybe lesser suite of wellness and recovery on the Run over the 165 all day long for me. Plus, I feel like the Run has a little bit better build quality than the 165. Then you look at Polar and Coros, and they don't offer an AMOLED watch in the $250 price point. Like, nobody really does. That's why this is actually significant. Polar offers the Pacer at $230. Coros offers the Pace 3 at $230. And I think both don't really compete with this, but I'm also of the AMOLED camp. And so I kind of feel like this is the most fully featured and beautiful, well-designed watch for $250. So then you have to go to the $350 range. So the first one you might consider is the Coros Pace Pro, as I have here. The Coros Pace Pro is a similar in some aspects. It's 1.3-inch screen. It has a little bit more, well, you know, I mean, it's a bigger sort of circular watch, both 1.3-inch screens. The build quality, I would say, is just similar. I guess we'll just give it similar. And when you look at the analytics, without getting into the granular details, the training is about the same, maybe a little bit better on how they track your training, but the wellness and recovery is weaker on the Coros platform of watches. Again, we're talking about a watch that's $100 more expensive. Weaker wellness and recovery. It does have a similar build quality, but then you also do get maps on the Coros platform. So that is to each his own, but if it were me, I would choose Suunto because you save $100, and I don't think you get a lot more value for the extra $100 with Coros. Then you would look at something like the Garmin 265. Now, the Garmin 265 I don't have on hand, but it's not really competitive. It's not a comparison. The real price of the Garmin 265 is $450, and that's a different watch price altogether. You could get a refurb on Amazon for $375. Now you're talking about $125 more. And it really doesn't compete head-to-head. The Garmin 265 is a more fully featured watch. It does have more, but I don't know if it really is truly as a comparison. So the real comparison, I did a whole review of this, is to the Race S. So the Race S at $350 does have higher build quality. It does have a little bit more robust operating system built into it from Suunto. It does have maps, and it does have a new physiological stat called Resources, which is like your body battery. So I did a whole review of that. You could watch that. I'll put a link in the description down below, because I think that is the head-to-head. Should you spend $250 for the lighter watch, or should you get the more robust Big Brother watch for $350? So in summary, as I look at the Suunto Run for $250, I feel like it is the most complete watch for $250 on the market today, because it offers the contemporary AMOLED display, which no others do at that price point, along with the more full breadth of basics you would expect with a sports and training watch. It offers the basics of training analytics, and it offers the basics of wellness and recovery analytics, which is a primary feature in a watch that functions well, has long battery life, because again, always on display at the highest setting is getting 3.5 days. You can get 5 with a lower setting. At $250 with a premium build quality, a premium features along with it, like the band and things like that. I feel like it's solid. Again, that's why I like Suunto, or like what Suunto is doing. I think they need to evolve some of the things that I had gripes about in the cons section of this, because I feel like they need to fix those things. But in either way, Suunto really does continue to pop out high quality build design, quality device design with good quality features at really affordable prices. So stay tuned for the Race 2. Stay tuned for a bunch of other watch videos. I got the Coros Nomad coming in and other watches coming out. So it's the Fit Gear Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.